My name is Catherine. I am 76 years old, a retired schoolteacher, and a woman who has lived long enough to see life's beauty and its cruelty. I was widowed at 40 and raised my only child, Daniel, by myself. Every day, every sacrifice, every ounce of strength I poured into life, it was all for him. For years I believed my love and devotion would keep him safe. I believed I had raised a good man. But one night, a simple phone call proved how wrong I was. It was late, the clock ticking quietly on the wall, when Daniel called me. His voice was gentle, just like always, checking if I had eaten dinner, asking how my day had been. We laughed briefly about an old story from his childhood. For 10 minutes it was ordinary, warm, comforting. When we said goodnight, I thought the call had ended. I placed the phone on the table and settled into my chair. That was when I heard it. His voice again. He had not hung up. The line was still open. At first, I thought he was speaking to himself. But then another voice, deep, commanding, spoke back. I froze, my heart suddenly pounding. The man's tone was sharp, filled with authority, and Daniel's responses were nervous, submissive. I leaned forward, the phone pressed against my ear, unable to stop listening. That was when I heard words no mother should ever hear from her son's mouth. Daniel was talking about debts. He spoke of owing money, large sums I couldn't even comprehend. The man on the other end reminded him what would happen if he didn't pay. The threat was unspoken but heavy, and Daniel, my son, simply agreed. Then I heard it. My own name. Daniel said, "Don't worry. My mother has what we need. She won't even see it coming." The air left my lungs. My son, the boy I raised with sleepless nights and empty stomachs, was speaking of me as though I were nothing but a resource to exploit. My hand trembled as I clutched the phone, every muscle in my body frozen. What did he mean? What did he plan to take from me? I wanted to hang up, to pretend I hadn't heard, but my body wouldn't move. I listened as the man pressed him for details, and Daniel hesitated. His voice cracked, as though even he hated what he was saying. But then he lowered his tone and continued. He described my home. He described what I had kept hidden all these years. Something only he knew. Gasp. How could he? How could my son betray me like this? I didn't know it then, but that moment would change my life forever. The call was still going. And the next words he said would break my heart into pieces. I sat still in that chair, my body cold and rigid, listening as Daniel spoke words I never imagined would come from his lips. The man pressed him harder, and my son finally revealed his plan. He told the stranger about the money I had hidden away, savings I had spent a lifetime putting together. Daniel knew where I kept it. He knew the little wooden box tucked inside the wardrobe, the one I had shown him years ago when I thought I could trust him. That money was my lifeline, my safety for old age, my shield against poverty. And he was planning to take it. "Don't worry," Daniel said. "She's old. She won't fight me. I'll get it before the week ends." The man on the other end grunted with approval. And then, with a chill that slithered down my spine, he laughed. "Good boy. Make sure you don't fail me again." The line finally went dead, and I sat there in silence, staring at nothing, my heart shattering into 1,000 sharp pieces. My son, my only child, the one I had carried in my arms, nursed through sickness, prayed for endlessly, was plotting to rob me. I wanted to believe I had misheard. I wanted to tell myself it was some misunderstanding. But deep down I knew the truth. He wasn't just desperate. He was willing to betray me. My mind raced back to his childhood. Daniel had always been bright, quick-witted, the kind of boy who could charm anyone. But he had also been restless, impatient. When he was a teenager, I noticed his lies. Small ones at first, but then bigger. I remember catching him stealing coins from my purse. I scolded him, I prayed over him. I thought it was just youthful rebellion. I never realized those cracks in his character would widen into something so dangerous. That night I didn't sleep. I paced the living room, asking myself what to do. Should I confront him? Should I hide the money somewhere else? Or should I call the police? My heart warred with my mind. He was my son, my blood, but he was also a threat. Morning came, and with it a decision. I took the wooden box and moved it to a place Daniel would never think to look. I told myself maybe he wouldn't go through with it, maybe the call was just drunken talk. But even as I whispered those lies to myself, I knew better. The week was only beginning, and I could already feel the storm approaching. It was Thursday when Daniel came. The knock on the door was firm, too firm. I opened it and saw my son standing there with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His hair was unkempt, his clothes wrinkled, and his hands fidgeted nervously at his sides. My heart clenched. I wanted to hug him to pretend everything was fine, but the memory of that phone call screamed inside me. "Hi, Mom," he said, stepping inside before I could invite him. He looked around the living room, his gaze darting toward the hallway that led to my bedroom. He tried to mask it, but I saw the hunger in his eyes. Not for food, but for what he believed was still waiting for him in that wooden box. We sat for tea, and I tried to keep my hands steady. He asked about my health, about the neighbors, about little things. But then his tone shifted. "So, Mom," he said casually, "do you still keep that box in your wardrobe? The one with your savings?" My blood ran cold. I forced a smile. "Oh, that old thing. I moved it years ago. There's hardly anything left in it anyway." His eyes narrowed. For a moment I thought he would explode. But instead he leaned back and laughed, though there was no warmth in it. "You always were too careful." I sipped my tea, my hands trembling beneath the table. He didn't press further, but I knew this wasn't over. The look in his eyes told me he was calculating, plotting. That night after he left, I locked every window and door. I hid the box again, deeper this time, in a place he would never think to search. But even as I tried to protect myself, a part of me grieved. What had become of my son? What darkness had swallowed him whole? The days that followed were restless. I jumped at every sound, every shadow. And then, just when I thought I could breathe, the phone rang again. It wasn't Daniel this time. It was the man. The one whose voice I had heard through the open call. "Catherine," he said, his tone like ice. "Tell Daniel to hurry up. If he doesn't, it won't just be his problem. It'll be yours too." I dropped the phone. My body shook violently as I realized the danger wasn't only Daniel. It was me. For the first time in my life I felt true fear, not just for my son but for myself. I realized then that Daniel was no longer in control. He was a puppet, and the man behind the strings would stop at nothing. If Daniel failed him, I would pay the price. I couldn't go to the police. What would I say? That I overheard a call? That my son planned to rob me? The shame alone would destroy me. So I did the only thing I could. I prepared. I called my neighbor George, a kind man in his 50s who often helped me with chores. Without telling him the full truth, I asked if he could check in on me during the evenings. He agreed without hesitation. Just having someone aware of me gave me a small sense of comfort. But Daniel grew restless. He began visiting more often, his eyes always scanning, his voice growing sharper. One evening he snapped, "Mom, where is it? Stop pretending. I know you still have it." Tears filled my eyes. "Daniel," I whispered, "that money is all I have. It's what I live on. If you take it, what will become of me?" For a moment I saw a flicker of my boy. The boy who used to hold my hand, who used to promise he would take care of me when I was old. His lips quivered and he looked away. But then, just as quickly, the hardness returned. "I don't have a choice, Mom," he said coldly. "If I don't pay them, they'll kill me. Or worse, they'll come for you." My chest ached as though my heart had been stabbed. This wasn't just greed. This was survival, for him, for me. And yet, the betrayal was unbearable. That night I made a decision. I would not sit back and wait for doom to strike. If my son couldn't save himself, then I would save us both, even if it meant sacrificing everything. The final confrontation came on a rainy night. The storm outside rattled the windows as Daniel burst into my house. his face pale, his body trembling. "Mom, they gave me until midnight," he said. "If I don't bring them something, they'll come here." I stared at him, my heart torn between fear and anger. "Daniel, listen to me. You don't need to steal from me. I'll give you the money. But it comes with a price. You must promise me this ends tonight. No more debts. No more lies. You leave them behind, or you leave me behind." His eyes widened, and for the first time in years I saw tears. He fell to his knees, sobbing, clutching at my hands. "I'm sorry, Mom. I never wanted this. I didn't know how else to fix it." I walked into my bedroom, retrieved the wooden box, and placed it in front of him. "This is everything I have. Take it. But understand, Daniel, you are not just taking my money. You are taking my trust, my safety, my peace. If you waste this chance, there will be nothing left between us." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. He took the box, and without another word he left. I never saw him again. Weeks passed, then months. No calls, no visits. My heart broke every day. But I also knew I had done what I had to do. Sometimes love is not enough to save someone. Sometimes love means letting go, even if it tears you apart. The lesson I carry is this: trust is fragile, even within family. We must never close our eyes to the signs, never ignore the cracks. And above all, we must remember that protecting ourselves does not make us unloving. It makes us human. My son's call that night revealed a truth I could never unhear. But it also taught me that survival sometimes demands the strength to choose yourself, even when it means losing the one you love most. If you've followed me this far, don't stop now. Share this story, reflect on its lessons, and remember, sometimes the people closest to us can hurt us the most, but it is our choice whether we let their darkness consume us, or whether we find the courage to stand in the light.